This one is hopefully going to be like 20 minutes. It's just all of like 100 words will be shared.
Yeah, I know.
I think we should just clarify that they're very kind of slipshod in the past, but we deliberately said had no topic today. So it's going to be...
Welcome to Sans Hosen 14. Damien said to me about 10 seconds ago that if he wasn't doing this with me, he'd be in bed. So strap yourself in. This is going to be an incredible... I mean, I'm thinking this is going to be a 2 or 3 hour podcast. We're going to cover everything. We're going to talk about our religious beliefs, Damien's homophobia and how he's trying to overcome it, and more words and so on.
You're close. Give them to me.
14. So, yeah. I thought to myself, what's the topic today? When I got out of bed, and I just sent you a message about movies or something. I don't actually have anything to say about movies, ever, again. They're great. Without movies, I'd just be sitting, looking at I don't even want to finish this sentence.
I don't believe that you have been watching movies. I think you have been just sat in silence in a dark corner. So trying to convince these people that you're relatively normal. They know you're not, all right? You can dispense with the pretense. It's absolutely fine.
I definitely watched a lot more fiction movies in the last month than I have done for years. I moved, and the internet people were very, very slow in installing the internet, unfortunately. So I had like 3 weeks where I should have had like 2 days without the internet, and I ended up borrowing loads of DVDs.
I was going to cut you to the quick and say, have you been watching DVDs? All right, so if you've borrowed DVDs, I guess it's been like 5 weeks of watching nothing but White Chicks.
Didn't have White Chicks, but I did watch Mr. Deeds. It was kind of a variety. Like, you have The Revenant, that's kind of like probably like the best movie there, and then there were other things which were amusing to watch, but then like you had like Mr. Deeds and Click.
Oh, right, okay. I must ask, if you've got this like treasure trove of Sandler films, who did you borrow these DVDs from?
Christina's mom.
You did mention that you've been watching a lot of Doom recently.
I mean, a lot of Doom. There's only one Doom, so.
So that was the diamond in that little package, then, was it?
Just on repeat. It was definitely sort of nice and nostalgic going through all of these sort of very naff DVD menus and all of that. It was also pretty good, not having any ads at all. And all the trailers were, inevitably hilarious.
Were there any good ones? Or were they just pretty...
I think I watched Chicago, and one of the trailers on there, I think, was What Women Want, which I also have and watched because of it.
Well, double feature. Back that shit up.
Yeah, Lethal Weapon 3 and What Women Want.
Questions were asked upon my wife's arrival from work.
Yeah, I guess I watched a lot more. I don't know even why I bothered to say that. Just, movies are great, aren't they? To do something with your time, as you're waiting for Godot.
Well, I haven't been watching movies, but I've watched a couple.
You have been watching the DVD logo bounce back and forth, have you?
I would. No, I wouldn't like that, but I remember it fondly for some reason. Maybe it's that skit from The Office, so I can surreptitiously live through it, but not actually do it. No, I watched...
Yes, it's amazing, actually, isn't it? Like, I didn't watch The Office US for years, but I'm kind of impressed by how both they managed to make it feel, like the actual Office, make it feel like bland and oppressive and like, oh God, I wouldn't want to actually work there, but also completely glamorize it. That's way more fun than any real Office. Like, it's got all these characters. I can't remember what the characters are called. But, like, if you worked with a Kevin, the big bald guy, that'd be great. You never work with anyone like that. It's all the little blonde bitch. It's all of them. Like, you just work with 12 of them.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, and
if I had that, I wouldn't necessarily settle for it, but I wouldn't have such bitter and sullen memories of my time in office work. Granted, mine was
did you
only
do office work, Damien?
technically yes when I worked in telemarketing,
Yeah, right. Okay.
albeit for like 2-3 months. It was it was in an office, but it was always after hours. So I imagine during the day, yeah, it was. I don't know what it did, but it
What, it was
obviously.
like somebody else's office and they had no idea that you guys were using it.
I maybe yeah. I mean, I'd always turn up at like 6, and it was a full complete office. Sometimes there was a like a main hub, and then there were various kind of like conference rooms. But the conference rooms they kind of kit out with the telephones for us and what have you. But sometimes, if there weren't enough, if everyone turned up for shift, they'd have to put you in like the main hall. And they were always reluctant to do that because there were cameras there. They knew that we weren't supposed to be there, presumably.
Oh, interesting. It sounds like the business class of shit jobs. Like, sorry, we've overbooked. Would you like to downgrade to not having income today?
Yeah, well, I didn't mind as long as there was paper. Then I knew I could doodle for like 6 hours or whatever it would be. I'd be there, so I was quite fine. If at least in the hall you get the nicer chairs, so I could kind of get on board with that.
Well, this sounds like an interesting avenue, Damien. Why were they nicer chairs?
They would oscillate if so required.
What? It would oscillate.
No, well,
So
they
they
weren't
were
motorized, no, but I could turn left
No.
to right, and that
But
was
to
one
a
way
limited
to
point,
preoccupy
like you
my
couldn't
mind.
turn right ways forever. You could turn right and then you have to go back.
No, you could spin round until you got sick, and this is absolutely
Right.
what I would do, or at least until like the cord in your headphones would snap you back. I had a
Yeah.
solution for that, and I would get busted all the time. But the solution was take off the headset. It worked a fucking treat, but alas, they didn't. That was the first red flag. They seek those motherfuckers out. Why have you taken it off?
Yeah. To do the chair thing. We've told you that calling people up and hassling them for money is more important than the chair thing.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, one of the things that was kind of really sucky about that job, every time you've called these kind of automated hotlines, you get through to an operator, they always specify that this call is being monitored for quality purposes. It's not being
Yeah.
monitored for quality purposes. It's being monitored to make sure they're doing their fucking job. Because if
Yeah.
you weren't, if they would periodically listen to everybody on these fucking calls, and they didn't care if you could start like raging out on the phone. They probably they didn't give a shit. But they would go through the different lines, and if they heard that
Yeah.
they had a deadline and you weren't talking to anybody, it's like, damn, this motherfucker's going down. And they'd seek
So
you
it's,
out like
just be talking. It doesn't really matter what you're doing, but just be.
we hear that you're not even dialing at the moment. What is going on here? Well, I was drawing pictures, sir.
I was drawing, like actually try and explain what you're doing. I just, to be honest with you, it's just soul destroying. I would just rather sit here and not do it. Oh well, like, if it's soul destroying, fair enough.
Well, I was never that upfront with people back then. No, in fact, it was kind of the opposite. I knew I was half-assing that job, and I half-assed it more than any job I've ever had. But I would turn up early for my shift just so
Good God.
I knew that I could get the phone and the computer right in the corner in a blind spot, so I could kind of freely draw all fucking night.
Yeah. Well, good for you.
Yes, I'd have to go through. Like, it had a system where it didn't auto dial anything, so it give you the phone numbers. And you have to manually punch them in, and you type up the number, and you'd have to. Once you've gone through the call, you'd have to, before it would give you the next number, you'd have to discuss how, with a little kind of system, how it went. So you'd click a couple of buttons, and there'd be like a drop-down menu with a selection of like 5 or 6 options. And I forget what they are. It's like someone picked up, wasn't interested, picked up, listened to the script, picked up, went for it, or something like that. And right down at the bottom, it was like no answer. But you'd have to punch in a number for that to be viable. So
Right.
I'd punch in the number, but always put in a different number at the end. And at the time it worked a treat, but I very luckily got off scot-free because changing one number doesn't actually mean that you're not going to get through, actually dial someone's number and get through to someone. But for whatever reason, it worked a treat. And for all the people that came up on this list, I didn't speak to anyone.
That's amazing.
No, it really isn't. What a horrible memory to revisit.
Oh, you got a lot of musical inspiration from there, though, didn't you?
Oh yes, for a few brief shifts, I worked with amateur rappers. Yeah, and I think I staked them out one shift, and I left my phone on record for most of a shift, hoping that I would catch them doing their workshopping their routine, their material.
Yeah.
Because I remember he did it the night before. I feel I've already, I mentioned to you definitely on a few occasions, but yeah, masterful wordsmithery when this dude would rhyme the word G with G.
G.
The better part.
You know what I'm saying, G?
Half
Yes.
a dozen times in his verse. My God, he was spitting hot fire. The man wasn't ready to hear.
Yeah. I mean, just the fact that you would write it like that as well. Anyway.
Oh, he just sucked. I guess he's probably graduated from that call center and he's now working in a Tesco with, like a couple of kids at this point. It's been 10 years. His life's going nowhere. Now his kids are probably doing the same thing.
They've got stories about their dad used to be in the rap game.
G.
G. I just did a video where I was trying to get as much footage of dumpsters on fire as I could. And one of the videos I came across there was like 8 hours of dumpster ASMR.
Presumably
which I didn't
on
click
fire.
on. But no, it was just that was just trash being compacted.
Oh, really?
I mean, I don't know. Presumably it was like, just someone recorded it at a landfill, so it would also be like beep, beep, beep. Or do you think I could get the motor out of this fridge? Beep, caw, 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 caw.
I don't know
what
if you're
that
trying
was.
to ridicule it, but I want to watch it like right now. That's going to be like my white noise.
But do you want to watch it for 8 hours?
It'll be my white noise when I fall asleep. Absolutely.
Maybe just to get the flavour of it, you could watch like the trash compactor ASMR medley, where they've edited like the half an hour, edited the half an hour mark with the like 3 hour mark. Oh yeah, you can tell. Yeah, it's raining now. You can hear the rain falling off the polystyrene chip packets.
It actually sounds quite nice. Damn it. Tinnitus is a cruel mistress.
Okay, the dumpster sounds okay. Well, what does your tinnitus sound like? And is it constant?
It is constant. Yeah, pretty much. It's much more high pitched than that. I can't identify the pitch, but it's in both ears. I shredded them when I was quite young. It's been like 14 years. It's been constant. It doesn't necessarily impair my hearing, but if things get too quiet, it's revolting. It's maddening. It's really quite painful. So I mean, more often than not, if I have the option to put white noise on when I sleep, then absolutely I will. I mean, we're going into autumn and winter now, and I'll be running a fan most every night if I...
God, listen to this, Mr. We, speaking for the Northern Hemisphere, forgetting about us. South circumference and...
Surely Kentucky's in the same hemisphere. It's going to be winter at the same time.
You don't know shit about Kentucky.
All right, fucking hell. I apologize.
Yeah. Well, anyway. Well, we'll talk about Kentucky in a minute. Maybe that'll be amusing. I don't know. Maybe that'll be amusing, the podcast. Shall we talk about whatever? I wanted to ask you more about your tinnitus. Does it physically hurt then?
It doesn't physically hurt, no.
No, but it's just like a horrible noise that's... When there's silence, instead of like a nice peaceful silence, it's like someone going...
Yeah. I used to remember like this people still talk about it. But like if they lie down and fall asleep, they can hear it like raining outside. It's very calming. I remember that as a kid. I used to love it. These days it's just not loud enough. I can kind of hear it, but yeah, it will taunt me. It's the quieter things get, invariably the louder it is, and it has this weird quality of the more you notice it, the louder it gets. So if I'm talking to you or I'm doing anything, it doesn't exist. But as soon as it all kind of dries up, like when you went to go let Christina in to start screaming away, the more I hear it, the louder it gets. It's bizarre, and it's really tiring, because what it means is, for the way I've dealt with it, the way I need to relax is that I kind of always need something to be like stimulating my ears, and it's kind of exhausting. I mean, I see people, people talk about like yoga and meditation and all that kind of stuff, not stuff that I'm not going to be interested in, but at least they kind of afforded the opportunity. If I do something like that, I'm going to start like peeling the enamel off my teeth after about 20 minutes, because I need to be listening to something at all times.
So you need to do like yoga with someone playing the drums in the back.
Yeah,
of the yoga
that's
or area. Yoga zone.
I've found that with enough, it doesn't have to be loud noise, but it can be things that I think would be distracting to other people. I actually get quite comforted around and soothes me quite easily. But I'm talking like
so you don't want the sound of rain. Then you need a TV program in the background, do you?
Well, if I'm falling asleep, no. If I fall asleep, the white noise I'll get up is usually stuff like the sound of fans or industrial heaters or something like that. Like mechanical noises. I don't know why, it just seems to work. It's a lot of whirring. Other people seem to not like it, but for me, if I hear that stuff, I already start to get tired,
You associate it with...
Well, yeah, I do associate it with sleep now, yeah. And it's had quite an effective Pavlovian response, because immediately I start going, oh, it's nice. There have been times where I noticed there was one time this was a few years ago, I was getting shit-faced at a friend's house. Everyone was hanging out in the living room, and we're off our fucking tits, but we'd have to make trips to the garage to kind of pick up the beer and what have you.
The garage?
Yeah.
La-di-da.
I know, right? But I had to do the beer run, and...
Why?
Well, because we needed more beer, and I don't know, maybe I was just bored of watching... What must have been like Mars Attacks or something. So, all right, I'll just get up, I'll stretch my leg. And kind of, sat still for a little while. I went in there. The guy had like his fucking dryer going. He's still doing his, getting his chores done while partying, because he's a fucking boss. But I went in there. It was all dark. I was very high. Heard the tumble dryer. I was like, I might just sit down here for a couple of minutes. Maybe they can wait for their beer. It's fine.
What? And then they just discovered you fast asleep like 10 minutes later.
No, it didn't come to that, but I did have to kind of like snap myself out.
Pull yourself out.
Okay, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to have to look at my watch, because I know I'm going to get carried away. God damn, if it wasn't soothing.
I know what you mean, to have that sort of, call of like, oh, I really would like to go to sleep. But I've always sort of wondered, when that is happening, don't you think, well, I can't, I mean, I've heard people say like, oh, I'll just sit down and rest my eyes, but that's never going to work. You're going to fall asleep.
Yeah.
You're just sort of giving yourself the excuse, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You would never just like, I'm just going to sit here and not expect to go to sleep.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've had moments where I find myself falling asleep in various situations, both like that and others, but I can't quite do it if I'm not like at home, and I find myself falling asleep. And obviously it's very powerful when you want to rest your eyes, what have you. But if I'm not kind of in a place I'm comfortable with, I find myself yanking myself out of it in quite a almost painful way. Because I will jerk myself asleep, and I'm not in any physical pain, but the going from really tired, exhausted to sleep to like trying to be awake, force yourself to be awake, is like not fucking comfortable.
Yeah, that's interesting, because I don't think I've ever had an occasion where I've fallen asleep without sort of intending to. Yeah, have you?
No, I mean, if I'm in in a public space, or if I'm hanging out at a friend's house and I fall asleep before anyone else, an anxiety kicks in, and I just assume that while I'm asleep, I'm definitely vulnerable. No one's going to respect that I need to sleep, and I'm going to wake up with penises.
No one's
drawn
going to respect your bodily autonomy if you know.
Exactly. I just assume there'll be
You know,
like
it's-
penises Tipex to my face, so it's just never going to happen.
I mean, Tipex at the end of it.
Well, after Tipex
gonna
it
be a
out,
ru-
yeah,
there's going to be a,
I can't wash it.
there's going to be a drawing of a penis on your face, yes, but that's not the worst sort of penis that is going to be on your face that night. You'll be raped. You'll be raped immediately.
I should get some better friends.
That's how the animal kingdom works. First one goes to sleep, boom, it's savage. Well, I was just wondering because I remember them, like in the 90s, discovering an Iceman. I think it's in southern Europe, the Alps or something. It was on a trail through the mountains, and they reckoned that the Iceman had succumbed to hypothermia and just gone to sleep. Obviously, hypothermia does that. It makes you, sort of lose your wits a bit and just be very tired, and there's not really much choice. But I just always, I guess as a kid, like, really worried about that. Like, this guy just thought he was going to sleep. Like he knew he was dying, probably.
Oh, no doubt.
Or he was just, yeah, and if he didn't, he was out of it. But, like, they didn't explain it like that. They kind of explained it so that I thought that he went to, like, oh God, it's
like
so
he
cold.
had a choice. He could have lived, but he was dumb.
No, not even that. Yeah, like, oh, fuck this. Not even that. Like, he thought for some reason, like, I'm just going to have a nap. But then he died in his sleep because it was so cold. Like, he'd made a mistake rather than chosen to do this. Like, he'd have lived if he just powered through and be like, I'm just going to keep on walking until fucking morning. It's going to be great. I'm going to get into, whatever the Neolithic equivalent of a breakfast bar is and order, a lovely hot grain drink.
And a turkey drumstick.
Smoke a bifter.
Because I'm a man.
Yes. Iron brew. They definitely had that back then, and I'm going to have a bath in it. Wake me right the fuck up. Oh, tingles. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I just your story of like wanting to fall asleep brought me back to the Iceman, and as a kid, sort of almost being terrified. Like, if I'm outside and it's snowy, don't ever be tired. And if you are tired, like, go, don't fall asleep because you'll die.
Every time I see the snow, I get very sleepy, and I have to check that I'm indoors. I get very frightened.
And I think I'm right in saying that there is. I mean, I guess it's not a phenomena; it's a well-established fact. The human response to drowning is carbon dioxide poisoning.
Right. Okay.
And there isn't actually a response to lack of air, suffocating. So if you remove the air from a room, you don't have the response of drowning, of being like, you just go to sleep.
Right. Okay.
Because there's certain instances of, I can't remember what it is, but there's an aircraft where, again, probably like 30 years ago, there was a full passenger plane full of people that crashed into the side of a mountain and everyone died. But before it crashed, it wasn't responding to any radio. It was somewhere like Argentina or something, where there's loads and loads of mountains. It wasn't responding to radio or anything, so they sent up like a fighter aircraft to go and look in the cockpit, and there was like an air hostess like scrambling around trying to control it, but then she sort of like fell asleep, and they looked through the windows and like everyone was asleep, and they worked out it was some sort of poisoning where like people wouldn't have even realized it was happening. They'd have just been like,
right,
oh,
okay.
so tired. And apparently you get that in some type of tanks that use diesel engines. Diesel engines can suck up all the oxygen. You can find, these instances of like tanks or submarines where inexplicably, like really quickly, everyone's dead.
Jesus.
Just thought I'd throw that in there. Yeah.
I presume that's why they have the oxygen mask, drop down automatically in instances like that now. They've obviously learned from that. Bizarre.
Well, I don't know, because I think that, I can't remember with the aircraft, I can't remember if there were oxygen masks down or not. or whether it would have made a difference, because it was, like I say,
They
it was
would what contaminated the oxygen tanks, maybe, or
well, I don't know. I mean,
I would imagine that the oxygen and stuff like that would be a separate supply for for situations like that. But maybe that's obviously a lesson they hadn't learned yet, a hard-learned one perhaps.
or maybe I see. I can't remember exactly, but maybe it was a case of the whole cabin depressurized really slowly, and yeah, the oxygen masks did come down, but by that time everyone was like in La La Land.
Right. Okay. No,
Anyway,
I'm not getting on a plane ever again.
but is it?
I don't even want to get sleepy again.
I mean, honestly, Damien, have you ever felt safe on a plane?
I suppose not. I just I'm just very good at distracting myself. I'm not necessarily afraid of flying, but every now and again I get on a plane and I'm like, this one's going to be it, isn't it? I think at one point I'd counted all like the flights of my life, and it was quite late. Maybe it was only a few years ago, and it's like, oh, this is like my 13th flight. I think it might have been one of the trips to Mexico or trips back.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, this is the one. I don't think I can do it. It's like 11 hours. That's a long time for things to go wrong. Better get really, really drunk. Which is exactly what I did.
Yeah, you were always that passenger.
I don't think I was too, I didn't make a scene or anything like that. But I would get I got hammered on those trips to fucking Mexico because it was BA and they had complimentary booze at the time. I don't know if they still do that for long haul flights, but if I learned that the gin was free, that was it. It was game over. I seem to remember that we had complimentary meals, but they gave me an extra one because every time I went up, progressively more shit-faced. They were like, should we give you some more food as well? It's like, as long as I can still get the fucking booze. Thank you very much. And these chips are very tasty.
To an accent you never heard.
Who knows at that point? I don't know. It was a very short flight because I blacked out for so much of it. I touched down with a hangover.
It was a very short flight because they had to divert to the nearest airport. I've never seen the appeal of it. No, I do see the appeal of it. I lie. Like you said, you get shit-faced and then you wake up and it's all that time I didn't have to be bored. But it just seems like the worst place to get drunk.
Oh yeah, it's very restrictive.
Like when I get drunk, I'm pissing all the time. Like every drink I have, I'm taking a piss.
Which is why I always make sure I've got an aisle seat.
Yeah, I much prefer aisle seats. The window. Like, firstly, there's this thing called the internet, and people filming more interesting landscape than this without having to look through the PVC window that's like been scratched by a toddler at one time. Mm-hmm. Like somebody's like tried to do a swastika and then someone's like written over that, and it's the worst planes I'd go on.
It's that sense of freedom. It's important. When I had my emergency flight back in June to Berlin, I flew with EasyJet to Manchester, but like half the plane wasn't occupied. So they made a big furore that because EasyJet's a bunch of crooks.
What emergency flight? Sorry.
When I went out to Berlin, I came back after I got the call from my dad about his dog dying. So I flew back the next day. So I had to book a flight very quickly. So not like an emergency flight. It was an emergency situation for me, but the flight was obviously a regular one. But half the plane...
I thought you were... When you said that, I thought you meant there'd been a diplomatic incident I hadn't heard of where the Germans said, basically, English, that's enough now. You gotta go. We've had it. We have had it.
I heard the boots marching down the streets, and I was in West Berlin, so who knows?
Nein, meine Straße ist nicht so potty.
I don't know, I was pretty close to checkpoint Charlie, but I don't think I could get on the correct side quick enough, so I had to haul ass out there. But that flight was interesting because it was at like 60% capacity, and I hadn't seen that for years. So they made you like book your seat on the plane for a fee, no less, only to find out that the plane was half empty, almost half empty.
But you know when you book they make you. I don't know this for 100%, but when I've booked flights, they then bring up a menu of like choose your seat, and the minimum you can spend is like $14.99. But then there's like a secret little X in the corner where you can like not reserve a seat at all and be assigned a random seat, and it's like a trick.
Right. Okay. I didn't pick up on that. I just assumed it's
Well,
like
I'm not
how
saying it was there, but
I just assume it's how like certain airline companies price their tickets. Well, so you have all the economy flights and what have you. Ryanair's a good one because they'll also charge you for your luggage and this, that, and the other. The flight itself is very cheap, but once you add on everything else, it's still cheaper than like a good airline, but not by as much as you would have thought. But these are typically things that would be included in the price of like a regular ticket for a respectable airline.
yeah.
But it was interesting seeing a plane like that. I made a point of having like my aisle seat and what have you, but I was in that middle kind of section of the four seats, and I was the only one there. It's like, guys, I know it's only going to be a 90-minute flight, but let's do a couple of laps of the UK because, quite frankly, I'm enjoying lying down on this plane.
Some of the best sleeping I've had in the last 10 years.
It's not. It's the most comfortable way to fly. The last time I remember that was like 10 years prior to that, even longer perhaps. And that was a longer haul flight from New York as well, and it makes a difference if you can fucking stretch out like that. It's really comfortable. You don't find yourself quite as cooped up and wishing it was all over. You're just like, yeah. But unsurprisingly, it's the people around you that make everything shit.
There it comes.
So
an Italian family, Damien.
Oh no, I'm better now. The doctor says so. My re-education was complete a long time ago now.
I've told you, Damien, it's not Italians that you don't like. It's Dolmio puppets.
Yeah.
Do they still exist?
Only if you YouTube them. No, I haven't seen. I presume they don't exist. I don't watch satellite television, and it would be really odd to see a Dolmio.
Television.
Well, cable, whatever the fuck it is, man. It's all online now anyway. But I would be
Mega
shocked.
wireless.
I would be shocked if I saw a Dolmio ad come up when I'm streaming or fucking YouTube or whatever. I'm kind of inviting it now. I want to see if it is out there. It must be. I don't think they've given up, all avenues for advertising.
I think you could entice it by putting in a few keywords.
I think
puppet wank.
I was going to go with the pasta route, but you know what?
Pasta wank.
One of those is invariably sexier than the other, and I've got a lot of energy to burn off now.
Oh, carbonara.
It's all that butter, you see. Butter is useful for those kinds of exploits.
Keep buttering, 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 buttering. Keep buttering, 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 buttering. Keep buttering, buttering, buttering. I was also going to say that, have you heard of a phenomenon called the hum?
No, I haven't.
It is essentially just, there are many, many reports, I think worldwide, but definitely in the UK and North America, of people claiming that they can hear a weird hum that they cannot identify the source of. Obviously, it's not like a majority of people, it's not like 50%, but like it's a significant number. And I remember reading an article about it, and the article said, well, it could be something really sinister. It could be people picking up on, security surveillance drones that, aren't officially there. It could be mass tinnitus that is undiagnosed, or it could be the fridge.
You fucking idiots. Now move
Yes.
on. What a delightful problem to have from my position is shut up.
Well, I mean, like anyone, I don't think this is like a very deep comment or anything, but sometimes I don't notice the noise the fridge is making until the noise turns off and the fridge has decided it's cold enough.
And I personally get upset when it does that. It's like, come back. I don't care about your defrost cycle.
I immediately stop masturbating and go over to it and kick it in the side. I don't know. I just wondered if you came across that and, in your tinnitus travels.
No, I don't do my homework. I stopped as soon as I learned that it's kind of incurable, and it's like, oh, fine, fuck it then.
Well, I was going to ask you. I know it's physical damage, but is there a psychological element? When you say like when you're in silence, it seems to get louder.
Yeah, I suppose so. Once you start observing it, it
Yeah.
becomes more prominent. But it's definitely down to like a physical damage. It does chill out if I'm. It acts up more when I'm stressed. It acts up, more if I'm drinking. If I'm going to bed like hammered, it is incredibly loud. It's one advertisement not to do that quite so much. But
You see, I've got a feeling with you as well, Damien, that you're not being entirely truthful about the nature of your tinnitus.
Okay,
about it
go
being
on.
a ring. Well, I just get the sense that actually it's
police
I
sirens because of my
No, I
fucking
completely-
behavior
No,
during
no,
the
no.
evening.
I get that it's like stressful, and I totally believe that it's going on all the time. But I think even if you can't hear it, like you just hear a. If you actually like honestly focus and be honest with yourself, it's we like to party. We like to party. We like to party. And sure, that would send me mad if it was going on 24 hours a day.
I definitely have earworms like that where I'm about ready to slip my fucking wrists. But I don't know, if Venga Boys came on, I think I would probably last a little bit longer. I think that'd be a little bit more fun.
His last words were, "The Venga Boys tell me what to do."
They made me do it. They find me
wanted-
with a severed pig's head, my dick in the mouth. He looked very peaceful because he suffocated himself in the car. He wasn't breathing oxygen anymore. It's all the carbon
That is
monoxide
a
he's in.
peaceful-looking penis.
Flaccid.
Flaccid, but not necessarily cold.
I had to hold the mouth open. I couldn't force it in. It was embarrassing.
The mouth of the penis.
Again, don't drink so much. He'll be fine.
I want to say that it feels like we're having two separate conversations, but also kind of like we're having half of one.
No, I'm just trying to get some shit off my chest. Feels good to say this stuff out loud.
We'll use plastic because metal would be harsh on the skin.
Oh dear.
As well, I've got to say that I didn't realize this before. Your Skype, I'm talking to Damien on Skype. I know the way that this is mixed, you think he's in the room with me. But your Skype image is obviously Rinda. And I realized that for the last 2 minutes, I'm in like my little bedroom studio. I have been directing my conversation to the mask of Rinda. And I feel kind of weird about it now. Like sometimes I kind of forget what you look like.
I like that. Does he talk to you, at night when no one's around? You hear my voice now.
Well, no, it's like now. I keep like having this realization of like, oh no, Damien isn't that camp at all. It's Rinda. Like the boundaries are blurring.
I don't know. You haven't seen me in a while, but I have cut my hair short and it's peroxide blonde now.
Yeah, and I do wear a barrister wig everywhere I go.
Well, I'm glad. I feel flattered that you've kept that Rinda mask for so long.
Yeah, it survived the move again.
Yeah, it must have celebrated its 3rd birthday not too long ago.
Yeah, he's got a little crease in the top of his forehead, and
Oh, that comes with age.
Cheek now. Yeah, he looks a bit harder actually because of it. To be honest with you.
He got hard. That's his time in prison.
If he wasn't pursing his lips all the time, he'd look pretty tough, I think.
Yeah, he does have that kind of serial killer vibe to him.
Let me lay down the law.
He's got all those kind of delicate features and frames. So he's someone that doesn't rely on physical strength. So he's learned how to use a scalpel very well. He knows exactly what cuts to make.
What you mean? We're talking about in like Celebrity Deathmatch,
Yeah, potentially.
Grudge Match, even Celebrity Grudge Match. Do you remember that?
No, I don't remember. I never watched that kind of stuff.
You never watched that sort of stuff?
No, not at all. I mean, if I caught anything like that, it's when I would visit you back in Sheffield. That's like the only time that I'd watch like TV from a wire.
Oh, well, fucking la-dee-da. Me and my Frasier box set.
Yes, that's why you fucking said that shit all through school. I'd only watch the DVDs, don't you know?
It wasn't to do with you not having a wire. I mean, by wire, I got 4 channels on an aerial, and you had like what? You're saying you didn't have any TV? It was just all DVDs.
Yeah, like my dad had
Oh,
such. I mean, I had it when I lived in London, but when I came, when I moved up north, we never bothered installing satellite television. My dad had such a hatred of it.
I didn't have satellite TV. I had like the bog standard plug your aerial in TV.
Well, that's what I mean when I say satellite. I didn't even have that. So I mean, the TV was for like the DVD machine and the PS2, and that was it. Every now I had like I think I had a little TV up in my bedroom at one point that had its own like built-in aerial, and I managed to tune in like the the standard 4 English channels, but yeah,
And Channel 5.
yeah, but it was almost verboten. If I came in and I was watching that, it's like what is this? Child,
You
what are
should be
you doing?
watching one of my Twilight Zone DVDs.
It should just be white noise. Look at the static man.
Yeah. Oh no,
Not man,
you
sorry.
totally
It
missed
would've
out.
been boy.
You totally missed out. I mean, there wasn't Rinda, but there was Loose Women. They had Frasier, but they also had Everybody Loves Raymond. They had this thing on every day called The Right Stuff. I think it was on Channel 5. And it was like a talk show, and it was just unbelievably like, it made you want to vomit out of your ass and shit out of your mouth.
Yeah, I
but
think
I
I
loved
gave
it.
that a nice wide berth. It's something that I would kind of enjoy when I would visit other people's houses, because it would just be like a nice half an hour, 45 minutes of that, and then I could just like divorce myself from it immediately.
Yeah, and then daytime TV, they also had like the real shit time. It really starts. It was always like fucking absolute garbage from 11:30 to about 3. At least with the kids shows, it was like something. But like 11:30 until 3, the only people we are broadcasting to are people who, for whatever reason, probably not their fault, their brains are running out of their ears.
The
And it was
unemployed
just
and the unemployable.
garbage. Yeah. And that could mean old people, or
Being a lot of people.
it could mean a lot of people. It could be me, because I definitely watched it. The best bit was Richard and Judy, which was often tedious. Their weather forecast was, their novelty was, it was actually a guy on I suppose, what would you call it? Like an artificial island, a very small artificial island in the middle of the Thames River. And the
Right.
artificial island was made to look like Britain and, I want to say, both Northern Ireland and Ireland. And it was, like the joy of that was always like, fucking fall in, you cunt. Fucking fall in. Fucking fall in. And one day he did, and they wouldn't never stop showing it. Remember when Ian fell in? Prick.
But could you be
Yeah.
sure it wasn't staged? So it was
It
like
wasn't-
it was
it
an
definitely
actual
wasn't
pool
staged.
with
It wasn't a pool, it was the Thames River. So
Oh,
it was
right,
it was
okay.
poison. They wouldn't just do that.
Oh, he never
He used to be like
resurfaced.
decontaminated after he came out of that.
Right, so he fell in, but he never came back to the surface. Or if he did, he'd grown
His
like
skeleton
an
did.
extra finger on each hand.
Yeah, an extra finger on each finger, and then an extra finger on each one of those
Oh,
fingers,
no.
and it just goes on forever.
It just looks like
There's no booger he cannot pick.
he brings his hands up.
But
And
also
they
he-
just look like hair coming out of his fingers now.
No, all his fingers end up looking like Hanukkah candlesticks.
Ugh.
And they just go on forever. He's really good at like sweeping up things with his hands. I bet he'd be really good at climbing as well.
Well, I presume like the strength of the fingers is going to diminish with each iteration of another mutant finger, right? So it's probably not going to be that effective. I think his like the initial the grasp of his original hands is going to be good, but I don't see him excelling at climbing. I think he's
You
gonna
don't?
he's going to like have 2 good handholds and then a lot of what looks like everything flopping around, a lot of like, hair-like fingers after that. That he's probably going to
no, I
blow
under-
down because he's climbing up. They get caught
No, I
in his mouth a
understand.
little bit.
It's still going to be a workout to climb, yeah, for sure. It's not going to be like, I'm not saying, suddenly he's fucking Spider-Man, but I mean, it's definitely going to aid him in climbing.
I'm not convinced, but I haven't seen the footage, so you know what? I'm gonna have to like defer to your better judgment here.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose what's going on with his feet?
All right, so we had a good 5 minutes. Let's spin it. What else did he grow? What other body parts could have grown?
Who is he? Oh, it's the weatherman from Richard and Judy that I sort of like pretended to just like can't remember. It could have been Fred from How To, for all I know.
I also don't know what that is either.
Yeah, you never watched. So you never watched like oh shit.
Oh no, how to? Oh no, hang
You never
on.
watched cartoons or anything then?
How to is it's going to be old. No, this is I'm going to need you to jog my memory on this one. So
How To was a kid show, I
like
guess.
an arts and crafts thing,
Sort
similar
of
to like
an
Art
arts and crafts
Attack, right?
thing. Sort of similar to Art Attack, but not always explaining things about art. Sometimes, sometimes it'd be like, oh, there's a segment about what the perpetual motion machine could be,
Right,
or
okay.
is, the idea of that. Or like, this is why snails live like this. So a bit more varied than Art
Right. So I
Attack.
want to say I might have an image in my mind. I'm not sure if it's correct. So Fred from How To, was he a bald guy with like librarian glasses? Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm kind of there, but a lot of it is eluding me. I've definitely
Right.
watched it. So he's been pushed into the Thames as well. He's reared out of it. He's walking like a centaur now.
What?
Because his,
A centaur? What?
yeah, because his butt mutated. It's massively engorged, and there are two leg-like appendages that have grown out of
Oh,
it.
so you're saying that because I remember that perhaps the weatherman from Richard and Judy might have looked like Fred, then Fred, if it probably wasn't Fred. Why would it be Fred? But Fred is thrown into the mix.
Well,
and
no, I
takes
mean the
up
weatherman is
the bottom of
obviously
the centaur.
humiliated about his, and his furore on Richard and Judy. He's like, well, the only thing I can do is like double down
His
the ship.
furore.
And look, if I make this commonplace, I push more people into the Thames. I'm not going to be quite so iconic, and I can kind of live
I
in the
see.
shadows all over again. So he's
They
running
won't
these
laugh at
people
me
up.
when I douse them also in shit.
So he's like, anytime there's a gig comes up and he can interview people on the South Bank, he's like there, front and center. It's like, please let me do it. And he's shoving them off one by one in the hopes that, everyone comes out quite as creepily disfigured as he is.
Yeah, do you know what? Thinking about it, I'm almost sure I know where it was filmed because I must have gone there years later. I
They
think
had
it
an
was
open casket.
I
He
think
was
it
lying
fil-
in state. He was a national treasure.
I think it was filmed in Canary Wharf.
Right, okay. And
God, why have I been to Canary Wharf like 15 times? I've been there so much that I would know my way around if I went there now.
I think I've been like once or twice. Why were you
I
there?
bet you went with me.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
I would have been in tow going, oh, them some tall buildings. Can we get drunk
Ugh.
now?
What a fucking awful place. Sorry, okay, well, did I ruin the mood there? That was a great place, lovely.
No, I was belching, but I'm trying to do it off mic. So, I want to reserve this for my ASMR channel, all right? I don't want to blow the good
Yeah.
material.
Yeah.
I'm just warming up right now,
When I get later this week, when I get a copyright from Damien for using a belch.
I mean, I might own the rights to this already, so, be careful.
I think that later in our lives, Damien, we should have a massive, like, utterly petty garbage, very public on social media fight about who owns the copyright and rights to all of the podcasts we did, with me saying that you own them and you saying that I own them.
Yeah, I'm quite happily to get down with that. I'm looking for any excuse to
My
shift the
client
blame.
insists he has nothing to do with this.
I'll change my name by deed poll. It's fine. I'll go into hiding
Get out of it, yeah.
when we're done with this. Yeah, it's absolutely fine. I don't want anyone to know about it. I actually had an uncomfortable experience while I was outed at work for doing this.
Oh, tell me more.
This was my previous job. One of the dudes.
Oh,
the
no.
well, he just hangs out on YouTube every now and again, like we all do. But for whatever reason, I don't know why, it started recommending the stuff that we were doing, and I don't know if that's because I don't know how the algorithm works, but I mean, I guess I have an account on Instagram and YouTube, I suppose. It kind of linked with one of those, I think, maybe both. I don't know. So it's drip feeding.
But even though it was your account that linked, I can't imagine you are clicking on these, are you? I don't imagine you've ever listened to one of these podcasts.
No. But for whatever reason, he's going through, and I think like one of the Frasier synopses has come up, and he's like, "This guy looks familiar."
Who the fuck is that?
It's like, oh, that's what he would look like without the beard, and then subsequently found the treasure trove of that kind of stuff. And I came into work one morning, and he was just, and the first thing he said to me was like, "Would you still love me if my legs were carrots?" And I was like, "All right, I'm going to pay you 50 quid right now if you don't tell anyone."
I just need to go to the bathroom, and then you hear a wallop of your body hitting the concrete.
I mean, it was an icy cold feeling. I got to be honest.
Yeah.
I felt like I was falling through the fucking floor. I mean, he was a good friend, and he was like, he got it, but he made the point of like checking it all the fuck out. It's like, all right.
I've never had anyone. I've never had anyone recognize me or anything, and the nearest I've ever gotten to anything like that is, like someone being like, "What do you do?" and me having to be like, "Oh, I'm a YouTuber," and they're, "Oh, well, what? You're a YouTuber? Oh, what? Oh my god, you're a YouTuber? Oh my god, what's your channel?" And then I like have to tell them, and then the next time I see them, they'll be like, "I watched your video." I'll be like, "What? Oh, did you? Oh." And they'll be like, "Yeah." And that's it. That's all they'll say. Like, they thought it was awful. And I'll be like, "I didn't want you to watch my video."
Yeah, that's obviously the vibe that I got. I was just like, yeah, no, I think it's cool that you do this kind of stuff. I think you said something about, well, it's kind of nice to, hear a podcast where people are like deliberately like talking shit, because that's kind of what it was supposed to be about, and everything's. It's like, okay, you don't have to like fluff me on this. Just, I know you know about it, but we have an agreement. You're not going to tell anyone. And to his credit, he did like, I think I got to him too late. He told one person or someone knew about it, and that guy was not quite as discreet. He thought it was hilarious, but he kept his word, so I kind of respect that. But the other dude, no, like telling other people, it's like, oh please. It wasn't like they didn't kind of like wring me out to dry. They would just like tell people, and like people would check it out and go, "Oh man, this is like skin crawlingly bad." And they would be like, "Yeah, so I know about it. That's all I'm going to say." All right, thanks. I'm going to go back to work, and we're not going to talk for the rest of the day. Thank you very much.
Oh man, yeah.
Dear
No, you should be proud of yourself. You're doing good work here.
Even when I left work today, it's like I had people come up to me and said, "Oh, so you got the evening off? What are you going to do?" And it's just like, well, I'm not telling them I'm going back to podcast. No. I'm going to make a sandwich and do some laundry. Don't look at me. Go away. I'm going now. Bye.
I think that,
Why do we do this if it brings us such shame?
Yes, this is exactly what I was going to say. I think that originally it was meant to be kind of ironic that I was doing a podcast, right? Because like the first ever podcast we did, the
Boisterous
Brothers, it was, when I had like 200 subscribers and was just, digging into YouTube. It was meant to be like just filler, I guess, but also like we knew that, and therefore like let's just have a chat. And I don't know about you, but for me, I enjoy them. I enjoy doing them, and I completely forget that it's really for public consumption. I mean, there's a little bit of fakeness where, I'll deliberately not tell you a story or something so I can do it on the podcast. But I don't know, I like to think, if I'm going to think of it positively, I like to think like, to you, the audience, I'm talking like I don't think you're an asshole. I'm not, buy my book or anything. I mean, just, I don't know.
It is what it is. Well, for me, it's a source of great anxiety. But unfortunately, I did sign the contract, so I'm doing this for another 5 years.
Yeah.
For almost no money.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I mean, what do you think? Why are we still doing it?
Well, since we've been agreeing to do this stuff, it's like the only time that I actually call you and that we actually hang out. So I'm kind of on board for that. But
Oh, no, we talk regardless of this.
But
I
not
talked to you last
much.
week. Well, no. Well, we don't do this much, I suppose.
yeah, it was like the first time in 2 months. It's like, yeah, of course, I'm gonna lap that up. I haven't heard from you in a while.
Yeah.
I signed on for a lot of this stuff because I thought because I knew that doing this stuff would make me really uncomfortable. It still does, but I thought when I started doing it,
You're a masochist.
well, it's something. It was the idea was to kind of get out of my comfort zone a little bit. Somehow, I thought that would kind of be good for me, but this is what we've been doing it on and off for like 5 years. And no, I still get pretty stressed out when I start these things. It's like, okay, and sometimes we've had a couple of duffers to be very generous.
We have? I don't think so.
Well,
I think everyone's golden. I stand by this podcast. No.
I know you do, but you obviously, cut out. I presume you edit out the dead air, but there have been times where we've run out of things to say. It's like, for fuck's sake, will one of us say something? I'm like, I start to panic. It's like, oh no. I don't think you can. I don't think he can like jump through the phone line and give me a slap. But I am worried that something bad is physically going to happen to me now.
I go through the same process every time we do it of enjoying doing it, and then for like 10 minutes afterwards being like, that was really fun. That's going to be a funny one. And then until I edit it, I'll be like, oh dear, that was terrible. I think I might have to kill myself. And okay, I'm editing it now, and like, this is awful. And then like, I know it's shit, but it just makes me laugh. And I know it's weird that my own podcast makes me laugh, but it does.
Yeah, obviously how I'm shithousing it right now aside, I do get a little bit stressed out, or anxious at least in the lead up to it, but I do have fun while I'm actually doing it.
What?
Oh, so that was dead air. That was the tinnitus.
Can you hear me now?
Can't ever stop talking. That's when I start hearing that choir of fallen angels screaming a cacophony in my ear, and I can never sleep.
And by fallen angels, you mean, we like to party.
Actually, ironically enough, they sing I Love Life. But having been listening
Damien,
to that...
your funeral's got to have that.
I hope
When
so.
the coffin is lowered.
What you don't understand is that every now and again you'll hear it, and it's kind of funny, but I've been listening to that song for 12 years now.
I know.
And I
Yeah,
can't
I
make
know.
it stop. There's one thing I'm curious about death, really, is I wonder if I will have a few moments of actual silence before I'm enveloped by the darkness.
Suppose it depends how you die.
I suppose so. I'll cut my ears off and bleed out.
I mean, is that what you'd be worried about? Is like, oh no, I'm gonna die. It's quiet.
No, I'm not worried about it. More curious. I want to be. It's a great strain on kind of on my mind, I suppose. Always hearing this stuff. I can't like comprehend what actual silence is anymore. So I'd be curious to know if I'd ever know that again. And the only way I can fathom it is just before I die.
I see what you're saying.
There you go.
I am going to get myself another beer.
Yeah, I'm not
Possibly have a
surprised.
piss. All right, I'll be back in a sec.
No worries.
So yeah, where were we? We were, I think, lamenting the very product that you are listening to.
I think we've done that every episode, though, so it shouldn't come as news to anybody. So why do we do it? And scene.
And then we make out. I have a.
I'm sitting here with nothing but a mustache of memories of last night.
I have a tiny, in terms of interest, anecdote. I moved. I'm now living in a 2-bedroom trailer in the middle of Kentucky, kind of in the middle of nowhere. on a street that has no streets coming off of it, and I have neighbours, but it's very dark at night, sort of thing.
I don't know what that means. There are people around me, but it's dark at night. So what? They're not there, or you're not there? What are you planning?
Yeah, okay, fair enough. Anyway, it's nice. You know, I've lived here for about 5 weeks, and I really like it. The people are nice, and I don't know them at all. I say hi to my neighbours, but that's it. It's quiet. But when I moved in, I found this place through someone I know, and it was a great deal. It's a trailer owned by a sort of an older lady, a widow. Her husband died last year, and I guess he owned, I don't know, a handful of properties. I don't know, half a dozen or something. I've no idea.
Right.
And she lives in one of them and rents out the others. And she explicitly said she's not really interested in making money from them. She just wants to let people have them, you know, who want them, I guess.
Okay.
You know, so she's a pretty nice lady, as landladies go. And anyway, I found it, and it's a great price. It's like $400 for this 2-bedroom trailer, and comparable places are like twice that. So I like jumped right on it, and I went to see it sort of the day before I was going to move in, because I was like, I want to move in.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I met her in the trailer I'm in now. She came to see it. The people who lived here before had lived here for 8 years, and she'd not been inside for 8 years, and it was her first time inside. And I got there like 10 minutes after she did, and I've never felt more sympathy for a landlord.
Why is that?
She was clearly like very upset. Well, the first thing she said was the people who were moving out were still there, because I was like meant to move in that day, and it was like, oh, it's going to have to be tomorrow. They were still moving stuff out. And the first thing she said to me, the landlady said to me, was, see that pile of junk down there at the bottom of the yard? The guy who's moving out said that he's going to take care of that. And I said, fine. And then he set it on fire. And I thought he was going to, like, remove it. And honestly, like, this bonfire, it was, like, under branches of trees. It was like the most ridiculous place to put a bonfire, but that wasn't even it. Just the place was wrecked.
Okay.
And there was what I have decided was chewing tobacco, but could have possibly have been shit, like on every wall. I'm almost certain it was chewing tobacco, because I found loads of chewing tobacco canisters, and it was like shit would have been easier to clean off. It was just incredible. Like, whoever lived here before had not given a shit.
Okay.
And so a number of the doors have punch marks in them, or maybe marks where like someone's head's gone into it. Every tile in the bathroom is broken. There was crayon on like loads of the walls. One of the windows had a pool ladder up to it, like they were using that as an entrance. So I think that probably there were like several occupants.
Right.
On the bonfire has the underbed of the bonfire. It's kind of fascinating. It's like I'm a fucking archaeologist. The underside of the bonfire is a incinerated mattress. And then you've got like a whole computer.
That's your kindling. Come on, man. You know how to make a fire.
No, I mean, it's melted as fuck. Like, there's nothing there left, you know. There's that, and then there must be a tarp or something, and then there's a whole computer that they've tried to burn, and then there's, I mean, things like batteries on the fire, but also things that would never burn, like porcelain plant pots, and like mason jars, and things like that. There's a whole tire with the metal inside that they tried to burn, and they burnt like a tiny side of it, like half of the shit wasn't burnt, and I've gone through a lot of it trying to get it down. There's like a fucking basketball trophy with the dude's name on it. who used to live here and stuff. Anyway, it was a very interesting sort of mystery as to what happened. Oh, another thing I found on the trash was loads of PVC with holes drilled in them, and I'm certain they were growing weed. But anyway, I set my garbage service up. It's all private, so basically a dude comes around and puts some garbage in the back of his pickup truck and takes it to the dump for me. And anyway, I finally set that up, and the guy came around, was like this really nice guy, like 60 years old, like bald but also mullet, and says, "Oh, it's looking, in the Kentucky accent, looking a lot better. It's looking a lot better." I'm like, yeah, it was in a bit of a state when I came. And he said, well, before, the whole yard was covered in garbage, and I used to pick their trash up before as well. And I stopped picking their trash up because they didn't pay me for months, and then the dude would just sit on the porch and stare at me. And I said, yeah, I think they were probably on drugs. And he said, oh yeah, meth. And I was like, do you think it was meth? He was like, definitely meth.
Oh my god.
And just that, definitely meth. Like, he was such a nice, the guy was like 60, like such a nice, like casual dude, but like the way he said it was so funny. Definitely meth.
Weird acrid smell in the trailer pervades.
I mean, I cleaned it, we cleaned the walls. I've painted all the walls.
Did you get all that trash taken away, or is there a police cordon now?
I've got several bags of trash taken away, but there's, a hillock of trash. Like, I mean, I'm going to have to buy a spade to, shovel all the ash, for one. There's a lot of trash that didn't even get burned. There's, like, big kid, like, plastic toys.
Right.
That they put on there that never burned. There's weird things like a whole deck of cards, like brand new in their packaging that someone put on this bonfire to burn. It's very weird. Anyway.
Oh, maybe the deck of cards was intended as kindling. I don't know. Nice and papery. That would burn easy.
You don't put kindling like on the top of the fire, like after it's.
You do if you don't know what you're doing, and I suspect that meth heads probably don't.
Yeah. So. Another thing that happened here, which I thought it was really cool, was I was having a small campfire of my own, basically burning the shit that they left, like tables and stuff, like that are half burnt. Like, thank you so much for that. And anyway, I'm burning the stuff, and I hear this scratching sound in the woods. And what is it? It's a fucking bear.
No, fuck you. I was going to say a raccoon, but a bear?
It's a bear. Yeah, it's a bear.
So do you need a rifle now to protect you and your family?
I mean, no, not really. It wasn't bothering me, but I could hear it. And it was scratching the trees.
Right, okay.
It was probably a black bear.
So how far are
I
they
don't know.
from the trailer then?
Well, the forest starts maybe like 20, 30 feet away.
That's pretty close.
It wasn't, but it wasn't at the edge of the forest. It wasn't close. It wasn't interested in me.
Right, okay.
But I heard it.
So did you ask around the trailer park about bear attacks?
I did indeed. Yep, bears around here. Mm-hmm.
Christ almighty.
Well, people just saying like, yeah, that's a bear. Yeah. Look out, I suppose.
It's part of your life now.
Yeah.
Suit up.
Yeah. But people have good advice, and I really...
All right, what's the best advice then?
The best advice is I really do like the Kentucky accent. I know this is going to come across like... It's not a good accent, but my take on it is... And the best advice is... Snake's not going to come in your house unless you bring Snake in your house.
What does that even mean?
It's good advice. It means don't worry about snakes coming in your house. They're not going to come in. You need to worry about like raccoons and stuff coming in your house. Don't worry about snakes.
But what about the bears?
Snakes are why you cut your grass. Yeah, but what about the bears? Well, just, walk away.
Lock yourself up. Fuck you know.
Yeah, so I like that though.
They're like sharks. Kiss them on the nose. Really? That works? Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go do it
Don't
right
punch
now.
a shark on its nose. That'll just piss it off. You want to kiss a shark on its nose, so it's like, oh, get off me, Mum.
What, like a gentle, affectionate tap? Or are we talking full-on Frenchie? Well, how long is your tongue?
We're like, you'd French a nose. We're like,
well, the nostrils
get
do
as much of
constitute
its
a
nose
hole.
into your mouth as you can. And then run your tongue up and down.
Good lord. I suppose with the smaller, more narrower sharks, you kind of make some mileage on that, but not a great white. You're going to look foolish, mate.
Get yourself a swordfish. You can gnaw all up and down the shaft.
Learn to tame your gag reflex, all right? Anyway, they're not going to mess with you. They're going to love it. So, I'm not really kissing this shark anymore. I'm filleting it. Is that am I right in saying that?
I mean, filleting it in the same way that a human would blow another human, starting at the crown of the head, sort of like an anaconda.
Oh, there you go. That's the anticipation as the mouse slowly wriggles down your body towards your junk, and when you know the party really starts to happen. It's it's that foreplay, if you will, foreplay.
Is that a real? I mean, that is a real thing, isn't it? Yeah. Well, never mind. We don't need to go there.
I just know the terms. For the love of God, I just know the terms. I don't look at this stuff.
What is it? What other terms? Just vor?
Vor, yeah. I think people that I don't know if it's necessarily a sexual kink, but are just kind of into people eating things, not necessarily other people or other things, but yeah. Just consuming, putting stuff in their mouths. That's what I understand. Which is a part of porn anyway. I mean, there's a lot of confusion, at least for me. My targeted
take on vor is it's not that weird.
My targeted ads are weird enough as it is. I can't afford another dodgy search.
Is it all like stockings and things like that?
Absolutely. A lot of edible underwear. But with a lot of room for a big dick. So, I mean... I don't know. Every now and again, I'm trying to search something up. I'll have people in the room. It's like, you didn't see that. It's fine. I'm a normal person. Please like me. Let me just forward this email to my mother. And the virus spreads. I know those ads don't work like that, but I'm always worried that they do. So I refuse to talk to people online in case that's what happens. It's like, here's an email from Damien, but here's his browser history as well. Oh no!
I remember Tony saying to me he was looking at our friend's YouTube stuff and saying that all these YouTube videos for like women putting on stockings came up and that he should watch what he's looking at while he's uploading his videos. Like, Tony, that's because of what you were looking at.
Yeah, buddy, come on. It's nice little unboxing video. No dear, oh dear.
Well, everyone, you'll be pleased to know that Damien doesn't work at the place what he used to work at beforehand anymore.
Yes, it was a bit of a nice shit show to get away from. Now, where should I start? It was 3 months ago when I left. Things were getting pretty shoddy in terms of staffing. Everyone was kind of miserable, but there were a few wretched things that I cottoned onto. Now, I have a suspicion there was one handyman.
Wretched things that you cottoned onto? Yeah, explain. I'll do the background. This is Kraftwerk. Kraftwerk's here. Hi,
Of course,
Kraftwerk.
yeah.
Hello.
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 Very
Nette
nice.
kennenzulernen.
Sehr
Yeah,
gut,
nice to
ja.
meet you, Liza. Yeah, that'll cover it. And then you explain, and I'll do Kraftwerk in the background.
Well, I don't know I shit on this place quite a bit. I can't remember what stories I've already offered the podcast. All right.
Yeah.
There was one instance. Obviously, so this place is I found out is owned by well, they have two owners that would come in all the time, but from what I found out, they owned like 2% of the company, a much tinier share
Then you realise.
than we were let on to believe, because they're basically the front people for an investment group and what have you. So what they're doing is they come in, they assume these properties, and they build them up and move on. So it was originally a labor of love for between the old owner and the old executive chef, and he was muscled out a couple of years in when they wanted to start opening up new sites, because the chef actually had decent ideas about how we should serve food, and this big open kitchen with the various grills and what have you, and the old style barbecues that he wanted to kind of celebrate and serve the food that was conducive to that. So they outed him pretty quickly. So everything since then, this was pre-lockdown, and I joined when everything kind of started opening up again. So I was working with them while they were paring everything down as much as they humanly possibly could. Mm-hmm. And some of most of what I observed was in terms of the cleaning, and some of it was absolutely fucking dastardly. Now, it was an open kitchen, this island in the middle of a restaurant, and people could sit around it, this, that, and the other. So it was also in a basement. So it had a very carefully designed extraction system, which required it's built and installed by a certain company, and they would also offer a service. Sorry,
Chubb.
No. I have no idea what it is. I don't know. It's kind of immaterial, but they would also offer a service.
Armitage Shanks.
No, what's the urinal cake thing? Something Armitage. Damn it.
Marisco.
Well, actually, put a quick pin in this. I just want to run to the bathroom real quick because I've been busting for a little while. I'm going to talk for...
You said urinal cakes and then suddenly...
Yeah, I know. The seal broke. I'll be 2 seconds.
Right.
I won't be long.
Okay, no problem. I will do the same.
All right, cool.
So I'm sure you got some toilet news.
Actually, it was a pretty uneventful trip, which is nice.
Well, I didn't mean like this time.
Well, no toilet news since I left in those last few weeks. No, I just I was talking about how they were. I was going to elaborate on how dangerous and how negligent they were in terms of looking after their staff health. So the restaurant itself was celebrating a lot of old style barbecues and grills and what have you. So there was so much smoke in that place. It was built in a basement, so it needed to have very good ventilation and extraction. So they had a very elaborate extraction system built by a certain company that installed.
Tesla.
Yeah, why not? But,
really?
Yeah.
Okay.
But
hang on, I'm getting a fax, Damien. It's a cease and desist.
Well, I can stop at any point, please. I'm already bored of talking. But
okay, Thanos installed your extraction system.
Yeah, but they offer a service to actually come in and professionally clean this stuff, like once every couple of months, what have you.
But I've heard that they outsource that to Siemens.
Well, that was the problem, because they just it was an expensive contract, but it's almost obligatory in terms of the letter of the law. If they're not looking after this extraction system, it's going to pump out a lot of unwanted, unnecessary chemicals and smoke into the atmosphere of the restaurant.
Right.
I'm not sure what the market is for professional cleaning stuff like that, but the contract itself was expensive from the company, so they just threw it to the fucking wind. This only came to light because it was after a year of throwing this contract to the wind that it would consistently fail. We had a devastating evening, at least for them, where the smoke alarm had gone off 12 times in the space of 2 hours. I was working in the back that evening doing prep and what have you, and I only knew about it because I had my headphones on the whole time, just keeping to myself, when we had to evacuate the building. And it's a combination.
What, did the fire brigade turn up and they were like, "You'll have to leave"?
No, it just got to a point where the dining room was just too full of smoke. You were
Wow.
struggling to see. You There was
It was
this
like
belt
in
of
your
smoke.
eyes, was it?
Yeah, it was in your eyes, but that was mild. But if you looked towards the ceiling, like 8 feet off the air, it was a thick belt of smoke that you couldn't see. And that's the point that they decided to evacuate people. The managers were so convinced that they could kind of get this shit onto wraps, but because they were, it was a kind of party restaurant for a lot of people because they knew that the owners were so lax about a lot of things, people would come in and fuck around. So the managers went up to snuff. So when stuff like this happened, they were kind of so deficient in their training, they really didn't know what to do. They were sending one guy upstairs. We had so everything was in the basement. We had the what would you call it? The lobby above on the ground floor, and on the right of that was this kind of shed type thing. These kind of grates. They looked like these. They were very inconspicuous stores, but they had a very special key. You go in, and that's where you'd find all the big engines and motors to kind of maintain this system. But they just kept sending up this dude that didn't realize that once they managed to put the fire alarm on silent, you had to go up there and either turn it off or reset it. So they kept turning this alarm off, and he would like flip the wrong button consistently. So we wouldn't extract anything. He'd go back down, and as soon as they reset the alarm, it would obviously kick back in again.
Right.
My theory was that whoever it was either high or fucking half drunk. But the reason I found out later was the smoke alarm went in the first place. Not because there's a lot of fire and smoke in the restaurant anyway. It was because the handyman was doing maintenance and what have you. And because you clean the inside of the canopy, and you clean above it as well. So it looks like it's kind of built into the ceiling. It's not. There's a clearance there. And because it's in a basement just above, snaking around this extraction thing is a vent that comes from outside. So it sucks in all the air from outside and blows cool air down into the kitchen and in turn the restaurant. But what that had been doing the whole time, because they not only neglected, one of the things that would be taken care of during this
Sorry.
Extraction cleanup is they clean all the filters and what have you, because they completely fucked that. They were too caked with just crap and grease, because the vents would bring in air from outside and pump it in through down into the restaurant. Now, where the first and most prominent mouth of the vent is like the north side of this extraction, and just kind of to the right of that is one of the smoke alarms. Now, what had been happening over the last year is it been pumping in all this air, but along with that, a lot of the pollution as well. It's just in London air, and as it builds up, it just would accrue. So this guy had shown me, he got his little step ladder out and had me take a look at what was going on above it, and it was just caked in this kind of like black fluff, which is just the normal.
Yeah.
It's just in the air we breathe, all the kind of pollution and microplastics and shit like that. But this is supposed to be kind of cleared out once every 2 months and what have you. But it's just been building up so much that when it would come in, it had nowhere to go because of the build-up. So it would simply be displaced, and they'd get caught in the smoke alarm. So we had one tumultuous evening where, they couldn't switch off the smoke alarm for a couple of hours. They managed to silence it down, but every week we'd have the same problem. They couldn't figure out why. It's because, the smoke alarm is just eating the shit that's coming in from the outside, and everything that kind of breaks off from all that. And because of the way the extraction is designed in terms of the counters, if it's breaking off and like flying into smoke alarms, we can only assume that the same pollution is breaking off in various chunks and particles, both into the kitchen, the prep areas, and on the counter into people's food. So, it was kind of he was. I don't know if it was bluster when he was telling me this, but he was like, he hated the company as well because he had his problem with the owners, because I think his pay was.
But you don't think
crap.
you don't think he was exaggerating when he said it was very dangerous? Basically.
Oh no, I don't. I don't think he was exaggerating there, but I am in two minds as to whether he was exaggerating if he said that, if the EHO came in and they knew to look there and they saw that.
If they knew to look there, yeah, I see
it was an immediate closure because of what it would infer about the safety of the food and the safety of the staff working therein, really. I did see it. I personally, when he wasn't looking, took a picture of it just in case, because at the time I was so fucking fed up with this place. I don't know if I don't know if I was going to be an anonymous whistleblower and send this shit to them. I suspect that he was because he was so angry, it was just a lot of tall talk, and they'd be like, sure, we can't do anything about it. But they would be flagged up and say, like, you've got to close the shit down. You either have to clean it. If it would have been, it was on the verge of a catastrophic failure. So you can either spend 20 grand to like repair it now, or you can spend $250,000 getting a brand new one installed. And you'd have to close the restaurant for a matter of months for that. But they were like, nah, that's fine. As long as the owner's attitude was, it's fine. As long as no one knows to look there, we can just keep on as normal.
You've just described every work environment I've ever been in.
Oh, yeah, I know. Just as I was leaving as well.
like when I was growing up, right? Oh, sorry, not to hijack what you were saying. Go on.
Well, no, and as much as I've shithoused these people, I know one story I think I shared was about this guy that sexually harassed one of the KPs, a 19-year-old girl, and they simply relocated her, and he was allowed.
It was you, Damien. Sorry, go on.
I believe that was consensual, and she was 20. It was different, but had its own fallout.
Yes, it did, didn't it?
But yes, but he was still allowed to quit on his own terms, and it was very uncomfortable knowing what we all knew about the man, and not only him, but how the executives handled that. Just kind of washed it, swept it under the rug and what have you. And we all had our own theories about that because we all suspected they were, both consensually and unconsensually fucking and sucking each other. But
and all of it as well. Like, why stop there? Fisting each other.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, there'd been loads of pegging. Absolutely. Well, we can bring up Vor again.
You said that wasn't sexual, though.
It can be, and it will be, at least with these fucking people. But
one of them dressed up as a Dalmatian.
It's like, it's almost like a Shining deal. Yeah. With the guy dressed up as a bear. No, so yeah, we were all kind of discussing the poll that we had to kind of work on that, but they did learn their lesson. There was a dude that was working with us.
Did they really?
Yes. And while we were all dropping like flies one by one, they were losing all their senior members. And I was on that train, but I was leaving at a different time. So they were scrambling to find people that would like step up to senior roles and what have you. And they landed on this dude who was obviously not fit for the fucking job.
That sounds perfect, though.
But they were desperate. I think their plan was to kind of look to me, but I made it clear that I wanted nothing to do with them, and I definitely didn't want any more responsibility, and I wasn't going to be I was never going to be on board for any of this. I was never not going to play ball for them.
When you say that this dude was obviously unsuitable, I mean, like,
I was a massive drunken whoremonger.
Again, that sounds perfect for a chef.
Well, they thought
when you say
so
massive,
as well.
I mean, was he like? Well, tell me. Sorry, I keep going places, but they're
he'd like to spend his free time like almost straight from work in the strip clubs, you see, and he would boast that he would spend 800 quid a night, and it's like, oh, how do you pay your rent? It's like, I'm gonna have to like steal something. It's fine.
Yeah, you're gonna have to if you spend it fucking what? Like, I mean, what? 800 a night?
I don't know. That's the
Why?
champagne room,
But
baby.
why? Yeah, but what? I mean, strippers are strippers really that interesting? Like to get into a financial jam for?
For some people, apparently so. Don't see the allure myself.
Like, look,
There are
I
cheaper
could
ways.
maybe, if I went to a bar and someone was like, "Do you want a lap dance?" and I was like, "Well, look at me," and they were like, "No, but I give lap dances for like 50 cents. It's nothing to you," and I was like, maybe I'd be like, "Yeah, here's 50 cents. Have a lap dance. Don't touch me, but yeah, give me a lap dance." And I'm just gonna continue talking to Damien, but yeah, lap dance for me. I assume 50 cents gets me 10 minutes. Fuck it. Dance for me for an hour. Fuck it. Here's $2. Dance with me for an hour. Have an hour off.
It's something I never understood about the paradigm of going to strip clubs. It's like you gather all your friends up and it's just like, yeah, we're just going to sit and be really horny together and do nothing about it.
Well, there's, from what I understand, you see, I used to say that, and then I had a good long conversation with a stripper, and there are different types of strip club patrons.
Of course.
see.
They come in and
See,
they
from-
ask about the extras.
No, you see, I didn't really believe it, but like, I do. She was adamant that like a number of people, especially regulars, would like come in with a condom already on their dick.
Oh, man,
And
really?
yeah, and they would get hard like under their pants, and then like the stripper that they wanted who knew them would basically like like twerk on them and like make them come. And they were basically dry humping, I guess.
Right.
Call it. Yeah.
Jesus. Yeah.
Yeah. And I've also heard from loads of people like like that strip club there, like any girl, $700. Shit like that. And obviously some of that's true, some of that's bullshit, but they're there for a reason.
So they decided to land on this guy and put him up.
Oh, sorry, Damien. This is how strip clubs work.
They landed on him for a promotion, and they put him through a probation period where they trained him up and what have you, and he gave it an honest try. I think he wanted to do it, but he's just inherently wasn't
Shit.
responsible enough for the job the way he would handle his personal life. So on the eve of like his official promotion, I think he had training one day, some like fire safety thing with a bunch of people. But like his next day, he was going to be officially kind of like sworn into the role. So he went out and got absolutely
Oh
mullered.
yeah, he was going to be given his extra steak knife for his ankle holster.
Absolutely. So what he, got.
I suppose it'd be a thermometer, actually, wouldn't it? That makes more sense.
Tweezers. We were a fine dining restaurant. No, we weren't.
Tweezers.
No, we weren't. But he got mullered and decided the best place to celebrate this would be going to the restaurant as a civilian. And one thing, he just came in absolutely fucking shit-faced. And I think it's on the managers for kind of letting someone that was that fucking drunk in, but he was there with a buddy, just seeking the fucking drinks and what have you. And I didn't see a lot of this because it was a busy evening. I interacted with a little bit. There's some obnoxious behavior where he was asking for shots from like the kitchen tequila which we'd use to cook the prawns in, or the mezcal for one of the desserts and what have you. And every now and again, we would like pour ourselves, a shot of this and what have you as we were working. But he was insisting we get pre-shots while he was thing. He sat relatively close to me and he was kind of demanding it in a really kind of aggressive way. He was like, okay, fine, but eyes on you, dude. Be careful. And that was it for my interaction with the dude that evening until like the end of the evening, where he comes in the civilian clothes just into the island and just like wants to hug all the chefs and what have you. It's like, okay, everyone's just okay, just all right, you're too drunk, but all right, go. Next morning,
Are they?
I come in, he's there as well, and it's 9 a.m. We're both getting started, and then I go to look at my shits and bits at the back. On the butchery section, I go out. It's maybe 9:15, and one of the chefs is like, "Have you noticed something?" It's like, "What have you noticed?" It's like, "Oh, Alex isn't here." It's like, "Oh, why is that?" It's like, "Oh, they've sent him home." Okay, well, why is that? That manager's in fact had to have a word with him. It's like, oh, what's that? Was it apparently a case has been made against him? Someone was uncomfortable with some of his behavior last night. It's like, oh no, what is this? Yeah, I'm kind of teasing it out. He wasn't well liked by at least the people that were leaving, which were my friends. So like, kind of toyed with it a little bit. So it's like, I hear it's sexual harassment, and other stories kept coming to light. I remember seeing one of the waitresses kind of approach him at the counter, or like basically just doing her job. It's like, do you want food? What do you want to drink? This, that, and the other. And he kind of rather affectionately started stroking her thigh while she's going through her spiel, and she doesn't bat it off or anything like that. Well, it doesn't even look uncomfortable. It's just something that I noticed like that is kind of not on, but okay.
No, it's definitely not on.
Kept it to herself, and obviously went screaming to the managers almost immediately. So as soon as he comes in, he's sent home. He's on suspension for having sexually harassed. It's like, well, okay, cool. Well, I'm glad he's not here. I don't have to work with him today. But I know what this company's like. I'm going to have to deal with this shithead in a couple of weeks. And knowing what I know, I don't really want to have to be friendly with him in my last few weeks here. And as the weeks go on, it's like, it looks like he's not coming back at all. It's like, well, why is that? It's, well,
because he sexually harassed someone.
Yes, but we know that this company is quite a joyful playground for that kind of stuff. So what really happened? It's like, well, he sexually one of the waitresses. Yeah, but is that all that happened? No. Because apparently a few other people came forward that evening. Would you like to guess how many waitresses he sexually harassed in one evening?
I would. 8.
No, that's too high. It was 5. So they finally drew the number, the line at 5 during business hours.
How many waitresses are there?
Well, I think the wait staff would probably be like a dozen strong.
And how many of them are dudes?
I think it was like 50-50. Maybe
so, right?
Maybe 60-40. Yeah, I mean, most of them were women. Yeah, but it took that many people coming forward in plain sight for them to finally like do the right thing. It's like, yeah, you can't fucking come back. But I do suspect that that might, if it was a bit more discreet, he'd have been happily allowed to fucking play around there again. One of the chefs, bless her, told me she heard about all this, and she was the one that I think that KP had immediately spoken to her after her run-in with what that fuckhead of a chef back, I think it was Christmas, and she said that as this dude was going around giving everyone their goodbye hugs, she was in the back doing like labels in the fridge and what have you. Naturally had to go back for a hug there as well, but that time it was a bit more of a fucking hug. This kind of a thigh was kind of raised. It's like, oh no.
I was raised.
I don't.
Oh my god! Like a dog pinning you against the wall.
Yeah, no, it's nothing quite like that.
Oh no!
This is artistic license at this point. She didn't tell me that, but she said it was kind
you
of.
had a chub on. You're saying perhaps
it was wildly inappropriate. So we knew that there were at least 5 accounts,
Jesus
but she decided that
Christ.
so many people had like shithoused this guy. It's like it's not. There's no point me throwing my hat into the ring. He's gone. I don't have to deal with it anymore, but there you go.
Well, is there not a criminal case now? I mean, what the fuck? You can't do that.
Well, presumably not, since nothing else.
He was one more slammer away from rape.
It was a lot of like hugging more than anything else, but it was
I know. Well, we all
close
know
to the tits, A lot of like pressing up against each other. It's like, well, it's not rape, but it's these girls were clearly like saying no. It's also just like, you fucking work here. And
bizarrely, during the middle of my shift, I don't want a full body hug.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, I've actually got shit to do, and I'm not here to be like. He was kind of a known quantity because the bar guys were coming. It's just like, look, all right, I'll give you one more drink, but you can't act like this is a fucking strip club. You know what you like doing, so just go there right now and stop fucking doing this here. And it's like, let's just carry the fuck on. And I was too busy working away, but people, everyone was kind of singing around me. It's just like, well, why wasn't this guy not fucking ejected sooner? But I don't know. Maybe it was to kind of ensnare this motherfucker. I know they were desperate for staff, but the people on the ground floor at least didn't like working with him. But happy to see that there was apparently a limit to formal complaints that could actually get someone removed for that kind of behavior. Fuck that fucking place. But again, I suspect it's only because it was in plain view during business hours. And a much bigger thing could have been made of it. I'm sure the waitresses that came forward could have easily made that a lot more than it was. I think they were just happy that the guy wasn't coming back.
Damien also told me the last time we spoke, which wasn't a podcast, that you had done ingratiated yourself with the new kitchen staff, your new colleagues.
Yeah, okay.
Well, you said you alienated yourself.
Oh, yeah, but, I mean,
Yeah,
there's not a story here. This is just me being typically aggressive in the workplace.
I think that's the story. Amuses. Entertain me.
I switched jobs, thinking that every time I switch jobs, I think, oh...
Did you smack one of them, sir?
No, but I broke an oven.
You broke an oven? Yeah, on one of their heads.
Well, they have a lot.
Damien, you need to quit your job.
I do. I don't need to quit the job. I do that all the time. That was kind of where I was going. I quit the job all the time, assuming that next time I pick up a job, I'll be happy with the next one. No, it's the career I need to quit.
Yes. Yes.
Not happy working in servitude, really. But didn't build enough of a skill set or intellect outside of that to accomplish that. So, and the money seems to be respectable after the sheer amount of time I've been doing it. So, yeah, that's just something that I have to kind of deal with on my own for a long time now. Yeah, forget all that. So
No, that was fascinating. Tell me more.
What about the crisis I'm having with my career?
Actually, no. I mean, I think you're in a good place. I mean, like, everything you said sounded like pretty honest.
Yeah, thank you. But I guess it's not kind of good for the podcast. But yeah, we talking about.
No, it's great. It's great. It's great. We're gonna make this into a mural.
A nice woven tapestry. It's just like my fucking sad bitch face. 20 feet tall or wide. I don't know how tapestries work. I've never seen one. I just know it's a word.
You've never seen a tapestry? Oh well, we will.
Now I'm embarrassed. I'm
going to
say yes
to buy you at some point. They have a great tapestry.
Well, I'm all right. I've worn myself into the job nicely, and since I've decided quite how I'm going to dig my way out over the next couple of years, I've kind of acclimated myself well and kind of switched my mind off. But it was a shaky first few weeks, and not standoffish, but I was very short-tempered with some of the bullshit. In some cases, it's a food factory where I work. And they have this odd dynamic on the kitchen line where the person on the pass expediting the food will tell you how long the tables will be. In any proper restaurant, it's usually left down to someone working either on a fish section or a grill section. Anything that's cooking the proteins, the most expensive stuff, which, depending on how people want their food cooked, dictates the time that things will take. And I don't, to them I was an unknown quantity, but I know that I cook fine. I know I cook very well and organized and this, that and the other. But they'd tell me how long it would take to cook a half roast chicken that had been taken off the bone. It's just like, actually, I think you might have to leave this up to me. And on a few occasions they were like, all right, I'll tell you, we're at the 6-minute mark. Okay. And they'd be like, all right, we need it in 2. It's like, no, put it up. And I'd give them the chicken. It's like, oh, okay, now you need to probe it because we're not sure if it's cooked. It's like, I know it's not fucking cooked. I told you it would be ready in another 5 minutes. please do not fucking undermine me. Don't tell me how to do this fucking shit. You're complaining it's undercooked, and I would have told you that if you wanted it in 2 minutes. This is why it's undercooked, okay? It's like, all right, okay, just kind of like put it under here, crisp up the skin. I guess that's a good enough temperature. It's pre-steamed, so the chicken will technically be safe. It's like, all right, fine. There's enough of this going on, but they had it during a Sunday night where they're asking for stuff, and an organized kitchen would call these checks in like sets of 3. So you do 3 tables at a time, and they give you the numbers of what you need, this, that, and the other. So it'd be a couple of beef, a couple of chicken, this, that, and the other, blah, blah, blah. But these guys, the sous chefs there are much younger than me now. They're like mid-20s. So they're kind of overachievers, and they're people that have studied hard, been to culinary college, and this, that, and the other, but some things that are severely lacking in, and some of them is how to kind of, command people, for start. And 2, when they come to situations like this, they just kind of get a bit foggy in the mind. They're just like, they have 20 tickets on, so they just start calling. So you've got like 12 beef and, fucking 40 odd chickens. It's like, well, yes, but what do you need now?
They lack the experience that
yes.
you have.
And there's no like specific instance, but one dude was just doing this because he was calling these things badly, where he keeps asking for one thing, then it's like, no, we need 2 now. Now we need 3. Now we need 4. It's like, well, yeah, but we have to get things out first. If you keep giving me things in totals, I'll give you that, but we won't get anything out. But he doubles down on this, and he's asking for food, and it's like, all right, I'm new, so I'm not going to say my piece, but I know how to kind of run circles around this, but fine. And he doesn't know me, so he's kind of doubling down as I know my way's right, and he just keeps doing it. At one point we have a line that it's built into the back wall, so it has all the grills and ovens, what have you, but it's built into the thing. So the oven is at like foot level, and you pull it out and this, that, and the other, but it's very low down. When I'm busy, it's got a big handle that I basically just use my foot to close it when I'm kind of running around doing other things with my hands. But he just kept hand-pecking fucking away. And while I've got my arm in the oven, and they weren't supplying long enough tongs, so every time I put my oven in, because it's low down, I'm burning my arm every time. I'm catching it on some of the rims and what have you.
Because you are somewhat drunk.
I've been pretty good, actually. I staved to just 2 shots, and it had been a couple of hours in, so I was basically dry.
Okay.
But he's nagging away, and at one point, one of the trays, as I'm trying to get things out and in at the same time and got caught, I just kind of lifted this thing up with apparently all the strength that was in my body. Just above the oven, you have a line that has these little containers in for things like salt, oil, pepper, all this kind of stuff that we use for cooking, what have you. And I slammed this oven shut, got one of the trays caught, and brought everything off this fucking bench. And it's an open kitchen as well, and all eyes were on me for a couple of minutes. So like, okay, fine. Go out and have a little toy. I understand that my behavior was not professional. I'm prepared to try this again at a later date, but that's kind of not untypical for a lot of moments in my career, but that's when I absolutely said that I can't do this anymore. There was nothing that was technically wrong. It couldn't have been worked out slowly, but man, am I bored of these fucking people in these situations.
What do you want to do?
Oh, I don't know about that.
You must have an idea. You mean you don't want to be a professional YouTuber?
Well, I was kind of hoping this podcast would take off, and that would be like, my cash cow.
Like year fucking 5, episode 100. That's going to be the one.
That's the tipping point.
Yeah. Yeah, you must have an idea. I mean...
but honestly, I don't want to talk about that here right now.
Okay. All right. Well, fair enough.
Well, I don't know. I mean, that seems a little because it's obviously quite difficult. I don't really want to do that on the podcast.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So new job, a little bit tough, but I guess it'll be fine. I'm kind of worried about some of the casual racism that's becoming a little bit too casual.
You mean about the Italians?
No. I mean, there seems to be a joke. We're a private members club. That if a table of black people come in, I have to hear that, get the fried chicken ready. And it's like, well,
Jesus Christ!
yeah,
Really?
yeah. Well, a couple would say that kind of under their breath, can be like kind of edgelordy. It's like, okay, I know you probably know better. That's okay, right?
I don't think that's okay.
No, I agree, but I can kind of stomach it for now. But like, I've had to kind of because one of them was a good friend of mine, and it's like I kind of
embarrassed her.
Yeah, a little bit, but it's like, all right. So he was like, okay, yeah, but it was kind of a joke. Okay, I can maybe accept that, but what you don't understand is like there is a sphere of other people listening, and you can't account for how responsible for these people are. And it was a weird kind of ripple effect after that had happened over the next few days. That joke was coming surprisingly commonplace. But people that were, because some of the people, there are a lot of people I've worked in these places that were like outwardly kind of racist or homophobic. They know, we all sit through like these kind of like diversity seminars, periodic training, part of the induction, what have you. And for people like this, it just teaches them how to kind of like hide it and what have you. But they're just kind of looking for, something to kind of...
They want to say it.
Yeah, to kind of let off that fucking pressure. It's like, all right, fine. I mean, I've said like dopey shit, not like necessarily in that respect, but, it's fun to say some nasty shit. You're really doubling down on that. I can't remember what I would say, but I had a problem with some of the people I worked with.
Remember.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's the biggest thing I've got to worry about. It's kind of gotten quiet for a little bit, but I know I want to transfer anyway to somewhere closer to where I actually live. They have another site pretty close to home, but I'm kind of looking for a way out. So it sounds bad, but please say it again so I could just walk out. That's fine. Kick up a fucking stink.
I mean, I understand that you are not like the supervisor or whatever, but like you gotta nip that in the bud. Fuck, my God, I cannot believe that people are like acting and saying that shit in London. Like you'd think you'd be over that black people exist by now.
I don't know. Some people just.
Jesus Christ, fucking hell.
It's really odd. There were a couple of instances where I'd worked with a couple of people they were talking about like homosexuality and any kind of non-heterosexuality, right? And it's like
probably a queer.
And they'd be like, yeah, no, I get it, I kind of understand it, I'll accept it, but if my daughter told me that she was a lesbian, I couldn't like talk to her. It's like, what? And they're talking to me about this stuff, and then the fucked up bit is that they kind of turn to me, it's like, but you do the same, right? And it's like, what the fuck are you talking about?
What?
It's like, yeah, you're with me, aren't you? You're with me. I think I was speaking to one.
You're with me. Wow.
Fucking
okay.
I was talking about recently. We had the Notting Hill Carnival here, and one dude was speaking to me. It's just like, because I thought, because I'd never been, I had the day off. It's like, well, talking about going down there with a couple of people, and so let's go check it out. Didn't end up happening.
Can you fill people in on what the Notting Hill Carnival is?
Well, no, because I haven't been. I know it's a big, like street party for the Jamaican community. I think it's a Jamaican thing. And I was speaking to this one guy, and he's from Brazil, and they have obviously the big fucking like Rio carnivals and stuff like that. And he was telling me that on my first year in London, what have you, I went down to that, and it's like, it wasn't my kind of carnival. It's like, well, what? I asked him, so what kind of carnival is it? Well, it's a Jamaican carnival. It's like, okay, what does that mean? It's just like, it's like. He didn't give me an answer. He kind of skirted the question. So like, so did you go? And I told him like, no. I knew that, massive crowds aren't kind of my thing. I've been to like, I think I went to a gig relatively recently. It's like I just don't kind of like being packed anywhere like a fucking sardine. And that's what I told him. It's like, oh, right, but so you're saying it's like it's not your thing, kind of wink. It's like, what? No, no. Don't get the wrong idea. It's just like don't be like. I don't like being around people. I'm not saying I don't like being around those people. There's a very clear distinction, all right?
Yeah.
Man.
It's interesting that you mentioned that because I remember that. Aren't they discussing cancelling that in the future because it was out of hand or something?
Well, I know someone got stabbed during this year. That was on the news.
I was talking to
It was
someone.
a big celebration. They came back after 2 years of the lockdown. They couldn't celebrate it, so it's a big one this year.
Right.
Apparently.
And
I don't
someone
know.
got stabbed.
Well,
I was talking to someone who had gone to Mardi Gras, right?
Yeah.
And I was saying like, well, what's the craziest thing you saw? And she was like, well, it was the middle of the day, and I was walking down the street, and I looked to the left through like this coffee shop, and there was a dude stood on a table getting sucked off by another dude.
Oh.
And she was talking about like, you look down like a corner and like someone's fucking someone down there, and like people are like just like openly like blowing cocaine and stuff. And I don't know, like it just sort of made sense when she said this, like that's what a fucking carnival is. like because the Notting Hill Carnival I think I've been to it twice, and like it's nice, like dances and stuff, but like it kind of like I remember it dispersing kind of early, and like at the time where you were sort of thinking like, well, are we all going to get shit-faced then? I guess. I mean, I guess what's your definition of a party?
Oh man, I don't.
Sorry, I dropped my phone. I've got to plug that back in. Fuck. It's all happening. Can you hear me all right?
I can hear you all right.
Yeah, sorry about that. Your response, Silver Play.
Well, I would say any kind of party would be getting shit-faced to a point that you pack up. Yeah. There's no kind of, just like drinking, smoking, and snorting until you just kind of pass out, basically, till you're fucking done, or at least part of you are done.
Well, I don't even mean like that necessarily, like so hedonistic, but I don't really want to like go somewhere and spend $10 on like a hot dog and stuff if we're gonna like watch people in feathers. Like there better be something going on.
I mean, dude, I think that's like the more kind of like common definition of a party. I mean, I think you know me. I'm quite happy. I think I'm happier in like the right company on a couch in front of a TV. I will definitely get shit-faced beyond belief, but I don't want to be fucking outside. I want a controlled number of people in the room.
Outside for about 6 or 7 minutes.
Yeah.
An hour.
As long as there's no one around,
Have a smoke, have a piss off the balcony or through the railings.
Oh, man, I'd love to piss off a balcony right now.
Yeah. Well, another thing I was going to say about Kentucky is my first day in Kentucky, which was months ago now, 2 people in the same day, without any solicitation, told me the price of used aluminum cans. Aluminium.
I corrected them. They're not my friends anymore.
Yeah, I spat in their face. 80 cents. So, a pound.
Very good. And that's how I make my living now.
Just copiously drinking and somehow magicking up the money in between. Like, the trade's all wrong. Like, if I drink a can of beer, I can actually make money from that. Like, imagine that.
If I steal the beer, then I absolutely make money. As I speak to you now, I'm wearing a trucker's cap and a pair of dungarees, and that's it.
and a pair of
I'm
dungarees
about to
and a
boost the liquor store as soon as I put the
Yeah.
phone down.
a solo shotgun. Hello. Yeah.
What's that brewing in your bathtub? I don't know, but it's 90% proof alcohol.
I use it to clean myself.
And to see the face of God.
It worked for Van Gogh. Well, are we done?
We are done.
Well, yeah.
Them's my stories for this month.
See you next time or not, Davian's colleagues.
Oh man, yeah. I'm outing some fuckers today.
Yeah, bye for now.
Goodbye.